What's going on, everybody? It is your boy E Money, and I got my chocolate baddie over here doing the craziest dance you've never seen in your life. That's a Canadian dance right there, eh? That's a Canadian dance. I don't even know why I got my hood on. I'm out here thugging, you know what I'm saying? But it's late. We're delirious.
We are, honestly.
We're about to start this podcast up. It's been a long day for us, y'all. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
We got 2 kids. I'm gonna start off there.
That's all you have to say.
We got 2 kids and they both wilding today. Actually, nah. My 4-year-old son is not wilding. Our 4-year-old.
He was wilding earlier. Elijah wasn't here for that part.
He was not wilding.
You weren't here.
You just admitted that your patience was a little bit thinner today.
You know what? That's why we're gonna talk about parenting today. My patience was thin, but
my God.
What is that? The end of your intro, babe?
Tell them about it. No, you just took over.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
Anyway, yeah. So it's the podcast is called Mornings with My Muse, but hey, today is Evenings with My Muse.
Today it's nighttime.
Yeah, normally you'll see a couple cups of coffee. We got some other beverages here tonight.
Elijah made me a margarita and
a nice bottle of water. So let's dive into it, y'all. Today we are talking about parenting. We're just gonna have a nice little conversation about parenting. We do a weekly check-in. We try to do it every Sunday, where after we put the kids to bed, we sit down and we say, "Hey, what can I do next week to make you feel more loved, to make you feel more served, just to help you out, make your life feel easier, more enjoyable, whatever it is, right?" It's just time to vent and say, "Hey, what do you need?" And then also a time to review, right? And say what was good from last week, what could have been improved from last week. And so it's just a time for us to express everything that maybe got passed by in the moment.
Yeah.
And so this last week when we had our check-in, we both had been feeling similar emotions when it came to parenting. Yeah. And we're if you're a parent, you probably already know this, but we're transitioning from 1 kid to 2 kids, or we've already transitioned. So our son is 4. We have a newborn in the house now. She's just turning 3 months. And so everybody says that there's like a transitional phase where the child has to figure out the new dynamic between having a new baby in the house, between like sharing the love of the parents, sharing the attention, sharing the time of the parents, right? And so like we're in that transitional phase right now, and we're trying to figure things out. And honestly, my opinion is that it's been incredible compared to all the stories that we hear.
Agreed.
So I still think my son is top notch out here, yo. He's still doing an amazing job. He's so loving to his sister.
Yeah.
He's so caring. And he picks up like everything that we do, like he amplifies.
Right.
So it's like we're checking on her throughout the day. If we hear a fuss, we're gonna go over there and see, okay, what's wrong with my baby girl? Like, what is she doing? What's going on? Why is she sad? And now it's just like quickly within a few minutes, sometimes instantly, it's like we say something. Oh, let me go check to make sure Saith is okay. Yeah. And he's like, no, I'm gonna go check to see if Saith is okay. Oh no, I'm gonna go talk to her and help her calm down. So he's really involved in such a loving, big brotherly way. I don't even know that's the word, but big brotherly. We coining it tonight. So yeah, it's been an amazing experience. But at the same time, we're starting to see, I think, within this 3rd month of being a family of 4, we're starting to see some differences in his behavior. And I would say some differences in our patience levels as well.
Yeah.
So it's not just on him. I believe that now that we're both, instead of it being 2 parents focusing their attention on 1 kid in the house, each parent has a child to focus on.
Yeah.
So it's like both of our plates are full. It's not like, hey, I can tag Ava in and she can take over in the ring and I can just go chill, or vice versa. It's like, no, we're both busy at all times now if we're at the crib. And so there's been an adjustment for, I think, our patience and our understanding of just his emotional state, being able to deal with just things that come with being a parent and things that come with like raising kids. And so, yeah, we're going to talk about that today. Long intro.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up the check-in because I even forgot about it. But that was such a good conversation.
It was a great conversation. Yeah.
It was great. Like, I walked away feeling, even though we didn't solve anything in terms of like the parenting frustrations we were feeling, I felt very heard. I feel like you felt heard, and we were just able to just keep it real with each other. And I love that.
Oh, the conversation was definitely real.
It was so good.
I got verbally assaulted in the best way possible. What? In the best way possible. It was like, yo, it felt good though. Like, because that sounds a little weird. But like, okay, I played sports growing up, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm used to like coaches either like hyping you up or chewing you out and being like, bro, get your stuff together, man. Like, get on the field and turn up. Like, hey, man, this may be a little vulgar, but one of my high school coaches, like one of my high school football coaches, one of his things was like, go out there on the field and put his dick in the dirt.
Oh, that was gosh, that is crazy.
That was his saying. He was like, yo, go out there and smash the opposition, right? He was like, destroy them. So I felt like that's how I walked away from that conversation. I was like, oh, wow, like I need to improve as a parent before I can expect anything else out of my kids, you know? But we'll get into that as well.
Yeah, we'll get into that. So the weekly check-in was so good because, like I said, we were able to just air out our frustrations, like both talk about where we're seeing like maybe regression, we talk about like where we feel we're being impatient, how we need to grow. It was just so good. And I'm really glad that we got to talk and have that conversation. Honestly, initially, this podcast was going to be about marriage, but Saif, our youngest new baby, was really stressing me out. Actually, she's been stressing me out for a few days now, okay? But I think today I got to my wit's end. And I was like, babe, I just feel like it won't be genuine if I'm on here talking about marriage when I just feel like I need us to be talking about parenting because I feel like that's just what's going to flow for me right now. And we both just had like this eye-opening conversation about parenting, and I feel like we'd be able to give some insight, but also just share with you guys honestly where we're at, you know? Yeah. And I feel like there's so much value in being able to do that. And yeah, so that's really where this conversation is about to go.
Cool. So let's start off with the check-in conversation because I think that was really good, and we both walked away like feeling expressed, as you said, but also feeling like we had direction, even though we didn't come to a resolution.
Right.
So one thing that you said when you were talking just now that really stood out to me was that we didn't actually have a solution for the issues that we're dealing with right now. But through the conversation, you felt better. We both felt better.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think that's something amazing, like just a nugget to take away. This is a lesson that I still need to learn. This can be in conversations amongst each other or even in conflict as well, is even if you don't come to a solution at the end of the conversation, expression can be just as good and just as needed.
Yeah.
In conflict and in conversation.
I would agree because I feel like it creates room for connection. I felt really connected to you, even though we didn't come up with a solution. I felt really connected to you because we were both able to just vibe with each other, be honest, and just connect in a different way over parenting. And I feel like because Shiloh has always been pretty easygoing, we've never had to have these kinds of conversations surrounding parenting, I feel like.
It's really, man, for the first 3 years of his life, it just flowed.
He's just a great kid.
I think the hardest thing was scheduling for us. True.
It was
never him and his behavior.
Right.
It was always, how do we balance parenting with work, with things that we have going on in life?
Yes.
So yeah.
That's so true.
Where, like, just give people an overview of the conversation, your big takeaways.
Okay, so essentially this past week, Texas had a little bit of an ice storm. Yeah. And it was like the streets were frozen. School was closed from Tuesday to Thursday. And Shiloh's in school from Monday to Thursday. But he stayed home on Monday because we were out late Sunday night and whatever. So he was already home on Monday. Then school was closed on Tuesday. School was closed on Wednesday. School was closed on Thursday. And then there's no school generally on Friday for him. Yeah. So we had him all week. And on top of that, Elijah was still working. I was still trying to like do my content creation stuff. And then I also had Saif, when usually we're used to having a break because he's gone to school Monday to Thursday.
And you had a ad launch as well.
Yeah, and I had a paid partnership that I needed to launch this past week. So there was just, work was still happening, but we didn't really account for the fact that there was going to be this storm and we would still have to be parenting as well. So that was kind of hard, and I felt like Shiloh really was just a little bit more needier than usual, just really whiny, like constantly just frustrated over little things, and it was just so frustrating. And I noticed both Elijah and our patience was so small. But I think at the end of the day, that was mainly because we were trying to keep it business as usual, and it wasn't business as usual. And that's what we talked about during our check-in, was the fact that, hey, we have to also be willing to adjust. And I feel like this past week we weren't willing to adjust, or we didn't even consider adjusting because it just kind of was thrown on us
so quick.
It happened so quick. And we actually feel like Shiloh's behavior, being more needy, being more like just whiny, that was reflected because we weren't being present with him at all, because we were like, well, business as usual, and I feel like that's where we faltered as parents this week. And then I don't know if you want to share what he said to you, or if you don't even want to go there. If not, we don't have to go there.
What he said to me concerning what?
When he came up to you in the room office or something like that. Remember during the check-in?
Oh, yeah. So one of the conversations that happened this week, okay, so kind of to give a little bit more backstory. Like you said, one of the issues that we've been having is, well, actually, we hadn't addressed this, but one of the issues we feel like we've been having recently with Shai is that normally he's very, like, he goes with the flow. He's very easygoing, very helpful. And he's just been much more sensitive lately. He's been extremely sensitive, much more reactive to everything. And so, like, every small thing, which I guess in a kid's eyes, nothing is small, but the things that would normally be small in our house get a bigger emotional response.
Yeah.
And it's met with more frustration, more anger, more annoyance with him. And that's just irregular, right? That doesn't happen. So for us last week, like I said, I was working all week trying to get stuff done and spent a lot of time in the office. And so he's, downstairs kicking it with his sister, with mom. But he finds his way upstairs. He found his way upstairs a lot. And I kind of was just like, hey, if your mom can handle it, like, just let her handle it. I'm trying to finish working right now. Just during work hours. And so maybe he felt like he didn't get the attention that he wanted since he was at home a lot more last week. And so, like I said, noticed the annoyance from him, like the fussiness. And I had been asking him over the week, it's like, hey, Shai, I feel like you're a little bit more sensitive to things that are going on around the house. Like, what's going on, man? Do you need anything from me? Is there anything that I can do? Do you feel loved? Is there anything I can do as a dad to be better? Like, what do you need? And the first time I asked him, I didn't really get a response. He was just like, no, I'm happy. You're good. Like, we're fine. But as I continued to ask throughout the week, I remember one morning he woke up and he had been a little fussy before going to bed the night before, right? And so the night before I was getting ready to put him to bed. We were downstairs and I was like, all right, Shai, come on, get ready for bed. Let's go. We're going upstairs. Say goodnight to mama. And he did not want to say goodnight. I was like, this is weird. Like, you love your mom. You say goodnight all the time. Like, this is really strange. And so literally it was like a whole 5 to 10 minute conversation. Like, hey, this woman takes care of you every day. She loves you. She makes you food. Like, she makes sure you're taken care of. Like, all of your needs are met. The least that you can do is say goodnight to your mom and go give her a hug. And so, like, eventually, kind of like begrudgingly, he did it, right? And so when we went upstairs and I went to his room, I was like, hey, Shai, why was it such a big deal tonight for you to, like, why are you having such an issue with saying goodnight to your mom? When normally, like, you love to do it. I don't even have to tell you ever. And he was like, he told me, he was like, oh, well, Dada, I wanted mama to put me to bed, right? So I was like, okay, well, you know, you can just ask. You've asked that plenty of times. If you don't want me to put you to bed tonight and you want your mom to do it, then just say that. They say, hey, Dada, I would love for mama to put me to bed.
Yeah.
And for some reason, he didn't want to ask it. He didn't want to express those words for some reason, which bothered me. And then, so we talked about that for a little bit, like why he didn't want to express that to us. And then tried to put him to bed, still a little bit grumpy, but he just decided to go to sleep, right? Conversation kind of ended there, fizzled out. Next morning, I'm in the office working early, comes in office, and he decides to just pick up the conversation where we left off the night before, right? And he was like, Dada, I don't even know if he said I didn't say this yesterday, but he said, last night I was upset because I wanted a milk bottle. I wanted a bottle. And normally his new thing is hot chocolate. I love hot chocolate before bed. Yeah,
he loved hot chocolate.
Right? So he was like, yeah, Dad, I wanted hot chocolate before bed. I was like, Shy, you ask for hot chocolate every night. Why didn't you just ask for it last night? And he was like, I didn't want to say it. And I'm like, okay, so you didn't want to tell us that you wanted mama to put you to bed. You didn't want to tell us that you wanted hot chocolate. There's a recurring theme here of you not expressing yourself. So why is it that you don't feel comfortable expressing yourself? And so I asked him, and I was like, are you scared to say what you want? He was like, no, I don't feel scared to say it. I was like, okay, well, do you feel like we don't listen to you? He was like, yeah. I was like, oh, so Shy, you don't feel heard? He was like, yeah, I don't feel heard. And yeah, man, in the moment, it just got me emotional. It still does get me emotional, you know?
Yeah.
Because I'm like, man, this is the first time that my son has expressed to me that this kid normally has no problem. As soon as he thinks something, he will spit it out of his mouth. And now he's consciously like thinking to himself, I want this, that, and the third. But I feel like I can't even say it because if I say it, my parents won't even listen to me.
Dang, that hurts, bro.
Yeah. And so, man, that had me like dang near in tears when he told me. And even like I went and told Ava a little bit later after she woke up. And it really made us talk about, okay, we see that our son is acting differently than he normally does. But clearly from conversation, there's things emotionally that he's not getting that are causing him to act out in these ways, right? So like to kind of pull it all together, long story, when we had our check-in and multiple conversations throughout the week as well, it made us think, all right, so if we see that our kids are acting out of the norm and they have a baseline for years and years and years, if they have a baseline of this is how they behave and they're acting erratic or completely different from the baseline, then maybe they're not just acting up. Maybe they're not just being crazy. Maybe they have an emotional need, a mental need, a physical need that's not being met.
Right.
You know?
Right. And that's why I'm so grateful for the conversation, because it helped us to look inward. Mm-hmm. And I think all week, because we never paused to stop to even consider that there wasn't an emotional need that wasn't being met, we were more so pointing the finger that whole week, you know, like, why are you acting like this? Like, come on, just get with the schedule, you know? Yeah. But us pausing to like talk and have that conversation really helped us to see like, no, actually we're the problem. You know that, I was going to say, do you know that TikTok sound? But you definitely don't. Definitely Elijah's never on TikTok. But it's like, me, I'm the problem. It's me. Like, it's literally us. Yeah. We were the problem, you know? Right. And I'm just grateful that we got to talk about it and bounce off each other, because it really helped us see. And I feel like what you did was so beautiful. I think where Elijah is strong, I will admit, and where I'm weak is he will actually take the time to pause and like really get on the floor with Shiloh and ask him all these questions, regardless of if it takes 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 40 minutes, an hour to get to the bottom of how Shiloh's feeling. And he just has just a different level of patience to do that. And I feel like that's something that I'm always learning from him, because to be honest, 2 really is better than 1, because if it was me and I was doing this by myself, I would have never gotten to the bottom of how Shiloh was feeling, because I would have just been like, you're tripping, you know? Yeah. But because you have a strength in that, where you do that, you always get to the bottom of how Shiloh's feeling. and then you come and tell me, and then I'm like, oh, so convicted, you know? And it's just sweet. I'm just really grateful.
But now that it's an interesting dynamic though, because I think 2 is definitely better than 1, because it's weird. I agree with you in that I've tried to be very intentional with his emotional state.
Yeah.
And I think that's weird because like I'm not naturally super emotional.
True.
And like when it comes to him falling, him hurting himself, like he falls off the couch or something, he's crying, I'm the first one out of the 2 of us to say like, bro, suck it up. You're okay. Like unless I see blood, I'm like, you're good, fam.
Unless I see blood. This man's tripping.
Nah, come on. Like if I don't see a bone out of place, if I don't see blood, that's just, hey, that's a black.
Listen,
that's
Shiloh
a black standard
falls,
right there.
and that's enough for me. Okay, it could be nothing, and I'm just like, come give me a hug. Like,
yeah, if it ain't blood or bone, I don't want it.
Okay, he's crazy, guys. He's crazy. Not blood or bone. Somebody come get this
don't
man.
Come in my corner. He'll be all right. But yeah, so all that to say, like, it's just interesting, that dynamic, because, you know, it's like your maternal instinct kicks in anytime he needs anything. Mm-hmm. He's hungry. He's saying he needs food. He's saying he needs a hug. He's saying, Mama, I hurt myself. Whatever it is, like even his lips looking ashy. Mm-hmm. You're gonna take care of him, like
that's true.
To the physical needs. So I don't know. It's weird.
It is very interesting. I never really thought about that. I'm like, wow, how is Elijah more in tune with our son's emotional state than I am? I'm usually the one that's in tune with the emotional state.
That's very true.
I don't know. I really don't have the answer. I also think, which is what we were talking about too, is a huge part of that could be that I'm giving so much of myself to Saith too. Yeah. That 100%. I don't have the capacity. It feels like, you know, I'm waking up multiple times a night to feed her. I'm dealing with her all throughout the day. She can be so unpredictable, like newborns are. Mm-hmm. And I feel like sometimes I have nothing left to give to Shy.
Yeah. So let's talk about that more. How have you found a balance, or how are you trying to find a balance now that you've gone from 1 kid to 2 kids? Like what are the difficulties, and like where do you see us going when it comes to balancing that?
I think I'm realizing this past week, after the whole like Shiloh being home and that whole conversation you had with Shiloh and our conversation, I think I'm realizing something needs to change. Mm-hmm. And it's only just hitting me now. Obviously, we're still fresh. Saith is literally about to be 13 weeks. Like, she's so new. Yeah. But I am still realizing something needs to change, because I want to be able to give Shiloh so much more of me. And I feel like I'm just giving, and I get it. It's just the nature of the season. But I still feel like we don't have to do things the conventional way. Like, I feel like for me, which is something that I was already considering before, is should I breastfeed? You know, and I feel like breastfeeding takes so much of me, you know, and I'm back to that now where I'm like, should I do it? Because I've been doing it this whole time, and I'm like, man, this takes so much out of me. I don't know if this is something I'm going to continue doing. I want to be able to feel more well-rounded, and right now I don't feel that way. I feel very like depleted. And I don't like that feeling. And I don't want it to make me resentful and frustrated and like, I don't know. I just want to be well-rounded. And I don't feel that way right now, you know? So I think I'm just realizing, all in all, like, I want to be able to give more to Shy. I want to be able to give more to Saith. I don't want to feel this feeling of like begrudgingness when it's like, oh, here we go again. She's awake. Here we go again. A 10-minute nap. Here we go again. It's like, I don't want to be begrudging about her just being a newborn, you know? Yeah. So I don't know. I just feel like something needs to change. I don't know what it is yet, essentially. But I think I'm realizing that I'm like, okay, something needs to change, whether that's childcare, whether that's me not breastfeeding anymore. I don't know, you know. And obviously I want you guys to know Elijah is helpful, but there's only so much he can do at the end of the day.
Yeah. And to give more context, like the way that we've just approached bringing in another baby has, I don't even know how to describe it, but pretty much what it's been is like Abe's taken the blunt load when it comes to Safe, the newborn, and I've taken the blunt load when it comes to Shy. So it's like pretty much it's like we're 90-10.
Yeah.
I'd say it's like she's 90% Safe, 10% Shy. I'm 90% Shy, 10% Safe. And it kind of just happened that way. And it worked for the first couple of months, you know, but I think sometimes you do things when you're thrown into a situation and you don't really have a plan, you do things to survive.
Yeah.
And then as you get your feet about yourself, as you kind of build up stamina to a situation, you look, my favorite word of this year, you look and you try to figure out how to optimize.
Hey, that word again.
Your situation, right?
Yeah.
So like now I think we're at a point where we've gotten a flow to life with 4, and we're trying to figure out what's the most efficient way to move forward now, that not just allows us to get by, but allows everybody's needs to get met.
Yes.
And I think it's a hard thing because a lot of the, like my online mentors, I call them, say that there's not really a balance in life, which I resonate with. You have to choose in each season what your priority is, right? And so I guess when we're looking at family of 4, it's just like, what are the biggest priorities when it comes to us as a family? And how do we make sure that we're putting focused attention on those priorities and that those needs are getting met?
Well, one thing that I would always say before we had Safe was, I was like, listen, if we're going to have a second baby, I want to have freedom and flexibility.
Right.
And I understand that with a newborn, a lot of that is taken away, but you can craft your life in such a way where you take some of that back.
Yeah.
And I feel like because we haven't been intentional about creating a rhythm with this family of 4 life, like you said, we were thrown into it and just did what we were doing to survive. We haven't been, I guess, able to work out that piece, the freedom and flexibility piece, for me especially. So I think this whole week is just making me realize that we just need to shift. And if we want to be the best parents we can be, if we want to be exceptional, we have to be willing to reassess in every new season and do what needs to be done so that we can be just our full selves too. Because at the end of the day, yes, they're kids. Yes, they're going to have their demanding moments, and I understand that. But I think for us to parent them in such an emotional, healthy way and to love them the best, like our cups have to be full, you know?
Yeah.
And I just feel like my cup isn't full right now, if I'm honest, because of the demands of a newborn.
Okay. Yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
I get that. So what's been the biggest difficulty in this new phase, this new season of life that we're in with the family? What's the biggest adjustment?
I think her just being so unpredictable. And I get it. She's a newborn. She's not going to be predictable. Mm-hmm. But her being unpredictable and the fact that I can't fit her into a schedule. And I try my best to create a schedule.
And we have like stretches.
And we do have stretches where it works and she is on the schedule. But because she's a newborn, she's not going to stick to it all the time. And that can be really hard for me, especially when I have things I'm trying to do too. You know, and I understand she's more important. She's more important than anything I'm trying to do. But I think because this is the season where I really am trying to be like consistent and put my best foot forward in all areas of my life.
Consistent.
Yeah. Her just not fitting into a schedule sometimes just throws me. And also I'm exhausted.
It's discouraging. Yeah.
It's discouraging, and then I'm exhausted. So I feel like not only am I putting my best foot forward in my professional life, but I'm also tired mentally, you know, even emotionally. I feel like when you're just not getting sleep, like how can you even function 100%, you know? And it's just hard for me to show up in other areas of my life when I'm so tired and when she's just not fitting into a schedule, even though I know it just is what it is, you know?
Yeah, I get it.
So yeah, I feel like that's what's hard. But what I will say is I feel like God is teaching me. Actually, okay, before I go there, something I was thinking about today was I used to always say that I never wanted kids. And it was for this exact reason. Legit. I was thinking about this today. I was like, I always said I never wanted kids because I felt like I was selfish. And to give a lot of yourself to kids requires a lot of selflessness.
Right.
So I was thinking about that today, and I was thinking about how frustrated I've been over the last few days because like she's literally taking like 3-second naps and I'm literally barely able to breathe in between.
Yeah.
I was thinking about how, wow, this is exactly what I thought was going to happen. Okay. But it really has sanctified me in a way that marriage can't, which is why I'm really relating this back to God, because I'm realizing, God, you had to give me children to make me more selfless, to make me more patient. I feel like because with marriage is obviously a sanctification process, and we both agree that it sharpens us. But at the end of the day, I don't got to wake up with you every 2 hours throughout the night. I don't have to, literally, I'm not your life source. You can sustain yourself.
It's taxing in a different way.
It's taxing in a different way.
The dependency, there's a higher level of dependency.
Yes. And I feel like it's beautiful though at the same time. Like I was thinking about this today, I'm like, this is beautiful because this is sanctifying me and making me a better version of myself that I truly do appreciate. Like there's nothing that I won't do for my kids. But at the same time, I feel like there's a real part of me that's resisting that. And I'm like, man, I really just need to accept where I'm at right now. Obviously, we still need to make changes and like, you know, create a better rhythm and a better schedule for us and our family. But I'm realizing that there is still a lot of resistance. It's like the second baby came and I'm still resisting. Like,
hey, you can't resist what's already here, yo.
But that's what I think is happening. Because I've been through this with Shiloh. I know how unpredictable newborns are. I know what it's like. And I feel like every time it happens, I'm like so upset. And I think that's because there is a real resistance that's happening on the inside of me. And I think I just need to surrender. And I think that's what God's teaching me. Like, surrender, Ave. Like, not to your own schedule, not to your own plans. You know, you really have to just let it go and trust me with your children. Trust me with your schedule. Trust me with your life. With the process. With the process. Like, I know what's best for you. And it's been hard for me to do that. So I think that's what God's teaching me. But what about you? What do you feel like God's teaching you about parenting? I just went on a whole rant.
I told you this before we went on. I need to be intentional about learning and parenting. Because honestly, I feel like I'm a pretty good parent. I think I have more work to do in marriage, like in conflict resolution, I'll say, than in parenting. And so, I don't know. I think my patience, my capacity for patience is being expanded. Yeah, that's good. I'll say that because, like I said, I think this week, and it wasn't even because of Seth though, but I do realize, and actually this is something that we talked about, I think, which is a good segue actually. I'm realizing that I have high expectations of my son. Yep. I have high expectations of myself. I have high expectations of my wife. And it's just this past couple of weeks. It wasn't just this week. It's been a few weeks that I've been thinking about, like, you know, my relationship with my son, just his behavior. And I think talking with you really made me realize, all right, where are these expectations coming from? And what standard can we measure our expectations against?
What was the bar? What was the bar that was said?
I was getting there, yo. I was getting there. So when it came to expectations, right? I think in every area of life, it's good to have someone that you look up to. And I don't want to use the word idolize, but someone that you aspire to be like. I'll say that.
Okay.
Someone you aspire to be like, right? And so I think in business, I have those people, right? In music, I have those people. In marriage, we have a couple couples that we look up to. We have those things. And so when it comes to parenting, I've seen some parents out here that have raised super successful children. And I think my expectations were, dang, I want to be like them. I want both of my kids to be the most successful, the most well-rounded, emotionally intelligent, like just best human beings overall. Like I want y'all to poo on everybody else out here.
Okay.
And so like my expectations were, hey, we need to, if you're going to be an exceptional human being and a like highly functioning person in society, a leader in whatever it is that you do, it starts now. Right. And so I think like when it comes to him handling situations just around the house, right? Him handling conflict or handling just hard times, right? Hard situations. My expectations were, we're showing you how to communicate with us. We're showing you how to respond. So just do it. Like pick it up. But I can't put a timeline on his growing process,
on his development
and his maturity process.
Yeah.
Right. So I need to be a little bit more patient. I want our kids to be amazing.
How the conversation went was, I was like, babe, I just think you have really high expectations of Shiloh.
Right. Yep.
And you were like, well, what's wrong with having high expectations of Shiloh?
Yeah. So yeah, I was like, yeah, I have high expectations of Shy. I have high expectations of all of us. Like, what's wrong with that? I don't think there's anything wrong with it. And Abe dropped the bar. She was like, yo, before we can talk about high expectations with him, let's make sure we are excellent parents and we have high expectations of ourselves as parents before we put any expectations on him.
Yeah.
And that was just, it was soul crushing in the most beautiful way. Because I was just like, man, I've never really thought about how I can be great as a parent.
Right.
I've always felt like I'm good enough, but we don't approach that mindset in any other area
of our life.
Like, I'm good enough. Like we just don't do that. Like that's not it.
Yeah.
We're trying to be the best in everything that we do. Right. And trying to, whatever it is, approach it with excellence.
Yeah.
So I think with parenting, and I think a part of that also is because it's hard to see, especially with the Black family dynamic, it's hard to see healthy examples up close, especially of what healthy, excellent parents look like.
Yeah.
Just because like pretty much all we see is TV or all we see is, movies, the media. Because I'm trying to think. Growing up, most of my Black friends, like half of my friends didn't have two parents in their household, I'm gonna say. And then the parents that did, I didn't see a bunch of like super healthy examples. And I know I didn't because I remember vividly, I had a friend in high school whose house I went over to. A bunch of friends went over to this person's house. And we were kicking it over there. And her parents were at the house, right? And her parents made all of us like some fettuccine Alfredo or something, right? And so we were all kicking it over there. And I remember seeing the dynamic between the parents and the conversations that were going on in the household, right? So I remember seeing that. And then also that, as well as one of my best friends, the best man at my wedding, being around his family and seeing the emotional health. Like that was so rare that I can literally only think of two instances in my whole life growing up where I saw like an amazing parenting dynamic and like an extremely healthy relationship between parents and kids. So I think it's like it's rare to see that.
Yeah.
And
I feel like too, like we have good parents too.
Yeah.
But I feel like
we do.
There wasn't a depth in terms of like emotional conversations, I guess.
Yeah, definitely.
Like, how are you feeling today? Or why do you feel that way? What can I do better as a parent? Like those conversations weren't had.
Yeah.
You know, and I feel like especially, I mean, speaking for myself, growing up in a Jamaican home, what Jamaican parent is going to be like, what could I do better today? How could I be a better mom? How could I be a better dad? You know? So I relate to what you're saying too.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and I grew up in we both grew up in a 2-parent household. So like we were blessed, especially like growing up black.
Yeah.
You're like, hey, to be black and to have both parents in your house is more rare, like than not. So we were definitely blessed with that. But like nobody's perfect.
Right.
You know, and so there were things that I'm realizing now as an adult that I desired as a kid but didn't have the words to express it.
Yeah.
You know. And there was things that I was missing as a kid.
Yeah.
That I want to give to my kids. And that doesn't take anything away from our parents and our experience growing up. Not that it was terrible. It was great.
Right.
But there's always room to grow.
Right. And for us to have emotionally healthy kids, we have to be emotionally healthy.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
So yeah, I feel like this week has just been really eye-opening for the both of us. And I'm looking forward to the changes that we make to make sure that we're parenting our kids the way God wants them to be parented, you know, because at the end of the day, these kids don't belong to us. Like, they're ours, yes, but we're stewarding their lives.
Yeah, y'all go to whoever y'all belong.
You know, like, we're stewarding their lives. They belong to God. And, like, at the end of the day, we're going to have to answer to God for how we stewarded their lives. Yeah, and that's a really big deal. It's a huge deal, actually. Mm-hmm. You know, and that was another thing we were talking about this week, too. Like, it's so crazy how things that happen in childhood can really affect the trajectory of your life. Yeah. Yeah. In like indirectly or directly, knowingly, unknowingly, you know. And I was telling Elijah this past week. I was like, I just want our kids to have the luxury where they don't have to have a childhood that they have to heal from. And because we're not perfect, I'm sure there'll have to be some level of healing, I'm sure. But I just don't want it to be like crazy traumatic things, you know?
100%. 100%.
Yeah.
So last question, and then we'll wrap it up.
Yeah.
Actually, it'll be a 2-part question. What's the biggest lesson in 4 years of you being a mom now? What's the biggest lesson that you've learned? And then what are you looking forward to the most as a parent?
The biggest lesson I've learned. I would just say to be more selfless.
Okay.
Yeah, I just think kids take so much of you, mm-hmm. especially in those early stages. And I don't think anything would have taught me to be more selfless other than kids. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I'm really grateful for that lesson.
Okay. And then what do you look forward to the most from parenting?
I'm looking forward to us figuring out a rhythm that works for all 4 of us.
I'm looking forward to my baby sleeping today.
I mean, that too. But, you know, that's what I'm really looking forward to. I just want all of us to feel served and loved and cared for and just have all of our needs met. Mm-hmm. And I know that that's only going to come once we get a rhythm together. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Okay. Gotcha.
What about you? Same questions.
All right. So biggest lesson that I've learned in parenting 4 years. I would say the biggest lesson is that my biggest weakness will probably be my child's biggest weakness. So if I don't know how to communicate properly, how can I expect my kid to communicate?
Mm.
If I don't know how to love properly, how can I expect my child to love? If I don't know how to handle my anger properly, how can I expect them to do it?
You better preach.
So I would say that's the biggest lesson.
That's so good. That's so good.
And then, like, what am I looking forward to the most? I think I'm really looking forward to emotional depth. And it's weird because I never thought those words would come out of my mouth. But like, having a family is really a beautiful experience in life.
It is.
And I really just look forward to learning who my kids are going to become. You know, like we've learned each other so much, but we have so much farther to go. And it's exciting. And to get a similar experience with our kids, I think it's going to be amazing. It's going to be an amazing experience. It's going to be trying. It's going to force us to grow in areas that we're weak in, force us to improve as human beings. But definitely looking forward to it.
That's so good, babe.
Yeah.
That's so good.
Let's wrap it up. We always end the podcast with why you are my muse, why I am your muse. So you want to start off? Why am I your muse?
Why are you my muse this week? I would say, well, because we're talking about parenting, I would say you're my muse because of your emotional depth with Shiloh this week. That was amazing to witness. It was really beautiful. And to see how it had affected you. Like, that really affected you. You made a change immediately. You said,
oh yeah, we had a father-son date.
This guy's like, I'm taking you on a father-son date today. Like,
date.
You moved so quickly to try to rectify that, you know, and you were like, no, I'm going to be consistent with taking time out for him and carving time out for him. And if this ever happens again where he's home from school, I'm going to adjust my schedule because you just did not like how that made you feel. Mm-hmm. And you didn't like, actually more than you not liking how it made you feel, you didn't like how that made Shiloh feel. Yeah. You know, and I think that was so beautiful to witness. And it was such a beautiful lesson for me as a parent to take the time to ask the questions. He's not too young to tell us. Like, he's 4, but he was able to tell you that he didn't feel heard. Yeah. You know, and that was just such a big lesson for me. So you're my muse because I'm just always learning from you. Like, the lessons are endless being married to you. And I just love that. I feel like I married somebody that, I say all the time, you're wise, but I really married somebody that I can learn from. And that's a blessing. It's really such a blessing. I can't thank God enough for that.
That's amazing, babe. So you are my muse for a multitude of reasons. Let's see, which one's the biggest? Since we're talking about kids, I would say you're my muse because of sacrifice. Like, the level of sacrifice that it takes to say, this is something that I've never desired, something that I've never wanted. Like, I've actually wanted the exact opposite. Like, you know, and to say, my husband really desires this though. My son, I know, would experience a different level of life with a sibling. To make that level of sacrifice and to decide to have 2 kids. You went from wanting 0 kids to having 2 whole, beautiful black babies out here. I appreciate that. And you're my muse for that. And then, not only that, you had the 2 babies, and then baby number 2, you had a whole 44-hour labor over a 3-day span. Started on a Wednesday afternoon. Baby popped out Friday. Like, so over 2 days of labor. Like, it was crazy. So, like, the experience that you went through, even to get our kids here as well. I love you for it. I'm forever grateful for you. I'm forever grateful for what you've done. And I'm spend the rest of my life repaying you for it.
Thanks, babe. That just made me so emotional because I've I've known that it's sacrifice, but to hear you, and you've said it before, but I think just to hear you say it again after such a hard week, I don't know, just makes me feel so seen.
Yeah.
Because it does feel like I did this for the family, you know? And it's something that I'm so grateful I did. Like, I would never take it back because I love our kids and I love our family. Like, that's probably the greatest earthly gift God's given me is our family. And the way it's changed me and made me better and made us better, literally, I credit the family to that. So I just appreciate you saying that it was a sacrifice. Because it's hard to know that in the back of your head, I think, and still try to show up 100% sometimes, you know?
Yeah.
So thank you for saying that. I love you.
Love you so much, baby.
This was such a good podcast. I'm going to listen back to it when I'm editing it and be bawling my eyes out.
Yeah. Hey, well, I'm glad we got to have this therapeutic conversation. Hey, y'all got to peek in on just some of the conversations that we have here at the crib. And we hope it's helpful to the parents out there, the wannabe parents, folks that are trying, they in the process of having kids, folks that are single out here. Hey, just giving y'all a little insight on what to expect.
Listen, having kids is not for the weak. Okay?
Yeah, definitely not. Yeah. Unless you got a strong grandma. That's when the takeover for them.
No, for real. No, that is a life goal, moving one of our parents down here.
Oh, yeah, that's part 2 to this conversation. Is retiring the grandparents to get them to take care of their grandkids.
Period.
But, we appreciate y'all for listening to this. As Ave always says, if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, whatever platform you're listening on, please like it, share it, comment, rate it, all that good stuff, yo. If you enjoy it, please share it with a friend, share it with a family member, share it with somebody who is in need.
Yes. Right? And follow Mornings with My Muse on Instagram.
Yep.
We post the little clips there. So we thank you guys so much for listening, and we appreciate the feedback we've been getting so far. And
it's been amazing. Yeah.
It's been amazing. I'm enjoying this. So thanks, guys, for listening.
Peace out.
Bye.